The smartest person you know does not fully trust anyone, not their closest friend, not their most devoted ally, not even the people they love most. And they are not paranoid. They are not broken. They are not cold. They simply understand something that most people spend their entire lives refusing to accept. Machiavelli wrote it down 500 years ago. He said that men will always betray you when it is in their interest to do so. Not sometimes, not rarely, always. And the people who have truly understood this truth do not become bitter. They become untouchable. Today you are going to understand exactly why. Reason number one, they understand that everyone is self-interested. The first reason is the foundation of everything that follows. Machiavelli did not believe people were evil. He believed people were self-interested. There is a critical difference. Evil implies intention to harm. Self-interest simply means that every human being, in every moment, is operating primarily from their own needs, their own fears, their own desires, and their own survival instincts. This is not a character flaw. It is a biological fact, and pretending otherwise is the beginning of almost every betrayal ever experienced. The person who trusted you completely yesterday will behave differently tomorrow if their circumstances change enough, if their survival is threatened, if a better opportunity appears, if the cost of remaining loyal becomes higher than the cost of walking away. This is not a statement about their character in isolation. It is a statement about human nature under pressure. Machiavelli wrote that men will fight for you when the danger is distant. But when the danger arrives, when the stakes become real, when loyalty starts costing something significant, they find reasons to reconsider. The smartest people do not take this personally. They do not see it as betrayal when someone acts in their own interest. They expected it. They planned for it. They structured their relationships and their decisions knowing that self-interest is always operating beneath the surface of even the warmest alliance. This does not make them cynical. It makes them accurate. And accuracy about human nature is the beginning of every good strategic decision. The practice: the next time someone disappoints you, before you interpret it as betrayal, ask one question. What were their incentives? Almost always, you will find that their behavior made complete sense from where they were standing. Understanding that does not mean accepting it. It means seeing it clearly. Reason number two, they know that circumstances change people. The second reason builds directly on the first. People are not fixed. The person in front of you today is not necessarily the person who will be standing there in 5 years, or 1 year, or sometimes 1 month. Circumstances shape behavior more powerfully than character in most people. And most people do not know this about themselves until the circumstances arrive. Machiavelli observed that the prince who was popular during prosperity found himself surrounded by enemies when the political winds shifted, not because his allies had always been false, but because the same people who were genuinely loyal in comfortable conditions became genuinely different people when comfort disappeared. Think about the people you have watched change. The friend who became someone else after money arrived. The colleague who transformed completely when they were given authority. The partner who revealed an entirely different self when stress made the comfortable version unsustainable. These people did not lie to you in the beginning. They showed you who they were in the conditions that existed at the time. But conditions changed, and with them the person. The smartest people understand this and build their relationships with it in mind. They do not give unconditional access based on who someone is today. They watch how people behave as circumstances shift. They observe how someone handles good fortune, because arrogance in prosperity is one of the clearest previews of behavior in adversity. They watch how someone handles pressure, because pressure does not change character. It reveals it. The practice: think about someone you trust completely. Now ask yourself, have you ever seen them under real pressure? Have you seen them when something important was at stake for them personally? If the answer is no, you do not yet know who they are. You know who they are when things are easy. Those are not the same thing. Reason number 3, they protect their plans from premature exposure. Here is one of the most practical reasons. The smartest people hold their trust carefully. Information shared is control surrendered. Every goal you tell someone about before it is complete is a goal they can interfere with. Every plan you share before it is executed is a plan that can be leaked, stolen, undermined, or used against you. Not necessarily with malicious intent. Sometimes simply because the person you told someone else. Sometimes because they mentioned it in a conversation where it reached ears it should not have reached. Sometimes because knowing your plan changed their behavior in ways that changed the circumstances your plan depended on. Machiavelli was precise about this. He wrote that the prince who announces his intentions gives his enemies a map, and enemies, even the ones you do not yet know you have, will use a map. The smartest people have learned this not from books, but from experience. They shared something important too early. They trusted someone with a plan that was not yet complete, and they watched it fail in ways that would not have happened if they had simply said nothing. The lesson was expensive, but they learned it, and now they move quietly. They build in private. They announce results rather than intentions. They let actions speak rather than previewing them. This is not secrecy for its own sake. It is the understanding that the gap between a plan and its completion is the period of maximum vulnerability. And vulnerability shared is vulnerability that can be exploited. The practice identifies something important you are currently building or planning. Now ask honestly, who knows about it? Does each of those people need to know? What would change if you had told no one and simply let the result announce itself? The answer will inform how you protect the next thing you build. Reason number 4. They have been betrayed by the least expected person. This reason is not theoretical. It is experiential, and almost every truly intelligent person who has lived long enough has this experience in their history. The betrayal that came from the person they least expected. Not the enemy they had been watching, not the rival they already knew about, but the friend, the ally, the confidant. The person who had the most access, the most trust, and therefore the most capacity to cause damage. Machiavelli did not need to theorize about this. He lived it. He served Florence loyally for over a decade. He gave his knowledge, his labor, his political intelligence to the republic he believed in. And when the Medici returned to power, the people he had served did not protect him. He was dismissed, accused, and tortured, not by enemies who had always hated him, by the machinery of a system he had trusted. The closest betrayals always hit hardest, because the person who is close enough to hurt you is close enough because you let them be. You gave them the access. You provided the trust. You believed the relationship was different from the ones where caution was clearly warranted. And that belief, that specific and deeply human desire for the exception to be true, is what made the damage possible. The smartest people do not walk away from this experience closed, but they do walk away recalibrated. They understand now, in their body as well as their mind, that proximity does not equal loyalty. That length of relationship does not equal safety. That the person most trusted is the person most capable of causing harm. And they adjust their behavior accordingly, not with bitterness, with precision. The practice. Think about the most significant betrayal you have experienced. Who was it? How close were they? What access had you given them that made the damage possible? You do not need to answer those questions with resentment. Answer them with information. That information, properly integrated, is one of the most valuable things you now own. Reason number 5, they separate affection from strategic trust. This is one of the most nuanced reasons, and one of the hardest for most people to implement, because it requires holding two things simultaneously that feel like they should be one. You can love someone and still not give them unconditional strategic access. You can care deeply about a person and still not share your most sensitive plans with them. You can be genuinely warm towards someone and still maintain a part of your interior life that belongs only to you. These are not contradictions. Machiavelli understood the difference between emotional alliance and strategic alliance. He had people he cared for. He had people he trusted with his heart. And he had people he trusted with his plans. These were not always the same people. Not because the people he loved were unworthy, but because love and strategic judgment operate from different parts of the human system. Love wants to give everything. Strategic judgment wants to give what has been earned. and the person who cannot separate these two things will repeatedly make the same mistake. They will give full strategic access to people who deserve their love but whose judgment, discretion, or self-interest makes them an unreliable keeper of sensitive information. The people we love most are often the people most capable of accidentally or deliberately misusing what we tell them, not out of malice, out of their own human complexity. The smartest people learn to hold both things, full heart, measured access. They love with warmth and give information with discernment. And this combination is not a contradiction. It is the architecture of a relationship that can actually survive the weight of reality. The practice: look at your closest relationships. In each one, ask whether the level of strategic access you have given matches the demonstrated judgment and discretion of that person. Love and trust are two different measurements. Make sure you are applying both, separately and honestly. Reason number 6. They understand the difference between words and patterns. The 6th reason is about evidence, specifically about what kind of evidence is actually reliable. Most people trust based on words, what someone says about themselves, what they promise, what they claim their intentions are, what story they tell about who they are and what they stand for. Machiavelli had no patience for this. He wrote that it is easy for men to promise when danger is far away. Words are free. They cost nothing to produce. They can be calibrated perfectly to what the listener needs to hear. And the person who is skilled at producing them can make even the most observant listener believe what is being said rather than what is being done. The smartest people trust patterns, not promises, not explanations, not the elaborate story someone tells about why the last thing happened the way it did. The pattern, what someone actually does, across time, across different conditions, across situations where keeping their word costs them something real. A pattern cannot be faked indefinitely. A pattern observed long enough, with enough variation in circumstances, will eventually show you the truth about a person's actual values, far more accurately than anything they have ever said. The smartest people do not stop listening to what someone says, but they hold it loosely. They take it as a hypothesis and they wait for the pattern to confirm or deny it. And when the pattern contradicts the words, they believe the pattern. Every time, without exception. The practice: choose one person in your life whose words and pattern you have both observed. Write down what they say about themselves and what they consistently do. If those two things align, you have something real. If they diverge, you have something important. The divergence is the truth. The words are the performance. Reason number 7. They know that most loyalty is conditional. The 7th reason is perhaps the most uncomfortable to sit with, because it applies to the people you are most certain about. Most loyalty is conditional, not fake, not dishonest, just conditional, meaning it holds under certain conditions and shifts. When those conditions change enough. Machiavelli did not say all loyalty is false. He said that unconditional loyalty is extraordinarily rare. So rare that expecting it from anyone as a baseline is a form of naivety that will repeatedly disappoint you. Most people are loyal to you while the loyalty costs less than the alternative, while being your ally is more advantageous than not being your ally, while the relationship provides something they value more than whatever they would gain by ending or betraying it. This is not cynical. This is arithmetic. And the smartest people do not experience this as a tragedy. They experience it as useful information. They structure their relationships with this understanding built in. They do not give unconditional loyalty and expect it back. They invest in relationships where the conditions of mutual benefit are strong and clear, where both parties have genuine reason to remain loyal, where the incentives align well enough that conditional loyalty becomes practically indistinguishable from unconditional loyalty in most situations that matter, and they remain clear-eyed enough to notice when the conditions are changing, so that they are never the last person in the room to understand that the dynamic has shifted. The practice: for each important relationship in your life, ask this question honestly. If my circumstances changed significantly, what would change about this relationship? If the loyalty here is primarily based on what I currently provide, what does that mean for how I hold this relationship? The answer is not a reason to end anything. It is a reason to see it accurately.